Kingdom Come Deliverance II is simply one of the greatest video games I have ever had the pleasure of playing, and in respect of the RPG genre, it is up there with masterpieces like Baldur's Gate 3. Warhorse's goal with this sequel was to use the resources from the relatively niche hit that was the original Kingdom Come Deliverance game and build the actual game that they wanted to make and polish, refine, and simplify a lot of those systems so new and returning players could experience this in the best way possible, and they achieved their goal 100 times over. And in a world where we have legendary studios like BioWare, Bethesda, or even Obsidian releasing relatively good but disappointing RPGs comparatively to what we have seen from smaller studios like Larian and now Warhorse, for example, I think they deserve to be up there as one of the leaders within this genre as a whole. But before I get into the full review of Kingdom Come Deliverance II, thank you guys so much for almost 1,000 subscribers. If you guys are new to the channel and you like gaming news and gaming reviews and you do like the video that you see here, please like, subscribe, and now let's get into the video. Now to preface here, yes, I do think this game is a masterpiece. However, that does not mean that this game does everything perfectly. There are things that could be changed, in my opinion, to make this game even better than it is. And I will go over those in a little bit, but what I want to start off with is what this game does absolutely best, and what I think this game is borderline genre defining for doing, and that is how immersive it is. Now, when you first start this game off, you are going to go through a pretty damn lengthy prologue for the first couple hours of your gameplay, and if you are a returning player, it's going to get you remembering a lot of the important events that happened in the first game that got us here, and if you are a new player, you're going to get caught up on a lot of the important things that happened in the first story that help drive Henry and some of the other characters and their motivations for being where they are. It's also going to start off the actual story of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 while teaching you a lot of the mechanics in the game that you're going to be using when you do go off on your own directly when the prologue ends. You're going to learn things like very basic combat. You're going to ride on a horse a little bit. You're going to have a lot of different stealth mechanics you're going to have to go through. You're going to be playing dice. You're going to be learning about food, how to call your dog and your pet, and actually how to feed him, and all the importance of all of that. So there are a lot of things you learn here. You also learn some alchemy, you learn some decision making, and some of the consequences based on what you're actually going to have to be doing as the character and the decisions you're going to have to make. And although there are some hints to how great this immersion can be within the prologue, one very good example of this is the crafting, which they start teaching you within the prologue, specifically alchemy, and I'll get to all of the crafting later. This has nothing on what's going to come after when the full world actually opens up to you. Because once you do, the full world is going to open up for you, and anything that you do is going to have a reaction from the NPCs in the world or the world in general. There's going to be consequences. There is going to be insane reactivity to the point where you literally feel like you are living in a living, breathing world. For example, one of the first things you're going to need to do is find yourself a weapon and some armor so you don't immediately die in this brutal world that you are immediately placed within. And you don't have a rubric on how you actually need to do this. What I did personally is I waited till the middle of the night, and all of the different NPCs have their own personalities and they have their own schedules. They'll wake up and they'll eat breakfast together, then go about their day and go to their job, and then they'll go back at night after they drink at the tavern, for example, and then they will go to bed. And as a player, you can recognize that. What I did was I snuck through the city at nighttime when the guard was at the post. I killed the guard, or I stealth killed him. I stole his keys. I hid his body so nobody would find his body in the middle of the night, because if his body's laying in the middle of the ground, someone's going to find it and know something's up. Then I snuck while everybody was sleeping, and I stole all of the guard armor, all of the guard weapons. I then had to go and hide all of these weapons and armor somewhere outside of the city, because if they find that on your body, they will know that you stole it. Or you could wait it out to where it's not stolen anymore and they won't recognize that you stole that certain armor of those certain weapons. On top of this, I had to hide these and drop them off in a place where nobody else was around, because if someone was around, they could pick up the armor that I dropped, put it on themselves, and use that, because all of the NPCs in the world, again, are living and breathing within this world, and they will pick up your armor that you drop on the ground, they will wear it and act like it is theirs, because they did not see you wearing it. Now, let's say, for example, I got caught stealing this. Well, they would either send me to jail, they would take a all my stolen items depending on how much I stole, or if they found the guard that I killed, I could be flogged or executed in the middle of the city. If some NPCs saw me, they might alert me that guards are nearby. If other NPCs saw me, they might just say, hey, we're handing you over to the guards right now, because they don't agree with that. Again, all of these NPCs have different personalities and they will go about things different ways. Now, for a lot of people, this could be very frustrating for a number of reasons as well, and even was frustrating for me at times. I had to continuously keep loading a previous save because of the world state I ended up in after I got caught. For example, if I get flogged in the middle of the city for getting caught by a guard trying to steal or trying to murder the guard in the middle of the night, I'm going to get flogged, potentially executed, lose all of my stolen items, and then I have a debuff on me for multiple in-game days that you actually do have to wait out, to where my vitality, strength, my charisma and speech, and all of these things are going to be lowered to the point where you could have such a low reputation in an area that the traders won't let you buy from them. I tried to go, for example, to the innkeeper, and the innkeeper, because of my reputation, didn't even let me sleep there. So I then tried to sneak in and sleep in her bed upstairs. I got caught again, and I had to find a bed within there that nobody was able to see me, to where I could finally sleep and not have the tire debuff. And then I had to figure out how to actually get some damn food, so I had to go and steal food and try not to get caught there. And yes, it was a very frustrating experience, but once I did it and I learned the game and I learned the world and I thought about it in a different way, it was so damn immersive and it was so damn rewarding, and I've never seen a game be like that in my life almost. And all of this different world reactivity and these consequences based on my actions happened literally within the first couple hours after I left the prologue. I genuinely do think that this game is going to turn a lot of players off within these first couple hours, specifically because how brutal this world can be when you start off with nothing. You're not leveled up, you have no food, you have these tire debuffs on you, you have to steal and you have to figure out ways to actually get what you need to get. You have absolutely no money to just go to a vendor and buy it. The whole world is still empty. You have no fast travel points yet. You have nothing. And I think a lot of people are going to struggle within that first couple hours, but I promise if you get past it, this game is going to be one of your favorites of all time. But granted, not a lot of people like dealing with that stuff in their games. They like getting into the game, buying the first set of armor, and just going on the first quest. And that is not the way that this game is at all. Now, another thing that is amazing for immersion in this game, and another way I made money off the jump in my first 5 to 6 hours playing this game, was the crafting, specifically with the alchemy. In this game, you don't just walk up to an alchemy bench, say, okay, I'm going to craft this item, press E, and it's crafted for you. That's not the way it works. You have to legitimately go, get all of the materials you need, walk up to the alchemy bench, make sure you actually have the recipe to make what you want to make, open the recipe book, place all of your ingredients down on a table, read the recipe book, and do it exactly the way it is. The chamomile potion, for example, that you learn at the way start of the game, you need chamomile and you need sage. You put these on the table, you take out the chamomile, you put each chamomile in after you pour wine, and there's a lot of different liquids. You have to pour wine into the cauldron, and then you have to boil this for 2 specific turns. So you actually put the cauldron down, then you turn the timer that you have in the game, and then it boils. You have to wait a whole turn or a whole 2 turns, I forget exactly what it is, and then after that's boiled, you lift it up. Once you do that, you have to grab the sage. You then have to grind the sage. You then have to put the sage specifically in the cauldron again, and then you have to get your pot or your potion or whatever the hell you're putting the liquid in, and then you actually have to pour that, and then you have 1 of your item, 2 of your item, or however good your perks are and however leveled up you are within alchemy. You might get even more than that, but for example, that is how you make 1 chamomile brew. It is hands down the absolute most immersive crafting I have ever experienced in any game, and it feels like you were actually back in that day and age making some damn potions to sell to a trader or to use on your long journeys. Another example of this is the blacksmithing. You have to go and have a base metal, then you have to heat up this metal after you have the materials. Again, you have to have the recipe. You heat up the metal, and then you move over to an anvil, and you have to make sure you're hammering each side perfectly. Then you have have to cool the metal. And again, you have to do all of this by hand. It takes a while. Some people might not like it. It might turn them off just in regards to how long some of the crafting takes, and you actually do have to get used to it, and you do have to learn these recipes and how to do it the right way. But once you do, it is so rewarding. And on top of that is, again, the most immersive crafting I've ever experienced on multiple fronts. And while all of this is well and good, I didn't want to just sit there and be crafting 24/7. I didn't want to be sneaking around and grabbing armor for no reason, or just playing dice with all of the NPCs and gambling all of my money away for no reason, or trying to make some money just to get myself started in this world. I wanted to go hunt and kill animals out in the world and sell their fur. I wanted to fight some bandits, I wanted to pop off, and I wanted to be as good at the combat as I possibly could be, because this combat in this game is very realistic in regards to a lot of the other games that you have probably played. You have certain areas that you're going to be able to strike in, and you're trying to strike in the area that the opponent is not blocking. They simplified this from the previous game by reducing the areas of striking that you can actually strike in, or you can use a ranged weapon like a bow that is really good for hunting and enemies that don't have a lot of armor, or a crossbow that is going to be a little bit slower than the original bow to actually load up those bolts, but is going to be better at shooting someone and sneak attacking an enemy that does have armor on them, or even using a handgun just to blow the living hell out of your opponents away. At the start of the game, you're going to be pretty damn terrible. You're going to have to level up the different weapons or the different types of combat that you actually want to use. In my run, I used no shield, one single-handed sword, so I was very good at dodging. I was very good at the Master Strike, which you learn later in the game, which is basically like a perfect parry, where if they're striking in one direction, you strike in the opposite direction, you parry them, and then you get a free hit-in. All of these were very beneficial when I did learn them, but at the start of the game, you don't have that type of knowledge. And you have to go around the world, talk to different trainers. You're going to learn different things with different weapons that are actually going to help you beat enemies a lot easier, to, at least in my opinion, to the point where you're crushing every single enemy in the entire game. But coming up from nothing and getting to that point, again, it feels so rewarding. Now, again, this is something that a lot of people might not like. A lot of people might not like this more realistic take and more slow and methodical take on combat in general, where if you do get swarmed by multiple enemies, it's sometimes just better to get the hell out of there before you die and before your head starts bleeding and you have to use bandages and wait until your injuries go away. But again, if you like that very immersive experience, this is going to be the combat for you, and you're going to grow to love it as you get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger each step of the way. Now, to get stronger, you're obviously going to have to progress your character. So I do quickly want to talk about that progression, because although it is relatively basic, it's going to be very integral on making the character that you actually want to make and playing the way that you enjoy. So in this game, you have your main stats, and you're going to level up these by doing various things out in the world. You obviously have your main level, which has a lot of perks under it, and you have your strength and agility, vitality, and speech, and as you talk to people, as you run around and jump around or fight, as you dodge and sprint, or just in general as you fight again with your strength, or as you become over encumbered and carry different sacks or dead bodies out in the world. All of these different things, if they are attributed to these specific stats, they will then level these up, that you can then go and get perks. And these perks do a number of things. For example, this perk right here, for all weapons, strength will be 2 less for you. In general, if you have lower strength than the weapon requires, you will do less damage. Conversely, you will do more damage, you have more strength. So this will mainly just increase your damage over time. You'll have a level 2 of this perk, and then you'll also have random other perks where your strength will make it easier for to win fights in a clinch, or tight grip, for example. The easier it'll be for you to knock someone out or stealth kill them, which is really impactful. If you go a stealth build, shield blocks cost you 30% less of stamina, etc. And all of these have their own skill points, so if I spend one in strength, that doesn't mean I lose mine in agility, for example. Now, aside from a lot of those main stats that have perks, you also have perks within alchemy, craftsmanship, drinking, horsemanship, houndmaster, and all of these are going to give you perks as well. Stealth, for example, has this thing called stealth kill, that if I have a dagger equipped, I can perform a stealth kill maneuver. If I have bushman, I have less noise when I'm in bushes. Surprise attack, I do more damage when I'm not seen by the enemy I'm hitting with a ranged weapon. If I go to combat on top of my skills, there's even more here, which I can increase and get different perks with swords specifically, or warfare specifically, or even polearms and marksmanship. And all of these are huge for increasing your character's strength and directly making the character that you most enjoy playing as. If I go to combos, for example, all of these are going to show my different combos that I've leveled up, and you can obviously unlock and find more combos with these to be even stronger as you go throughout the game, even unarmed combat. Now, lastly here, you also have your derived stats and your dialogue stats, and these are going to be basically changed depending on what gear you have. Again, also if you have different stats and different perks, they are going to change these secondary stats as well. Things like speed, noise, visibility, conspicuousness, charisma, etc. And then all of your dialogue options as well that will help you get through dialogue or certain scenarios in different ways. If you get caught by a guard, for example, you might be able to use these to get out of that. Now, if I go over to my gear, this is another big form of progression. You're going to have multiple different tiers on your different weapons. As you can tell, the gold one will do more damage, for example, than the silver one. And this is the same with gear, and all of these have different slots that can go within. You have different outfits that you can equip that, if you look down at the bottom here, are also going to change my derived stats in different ways. If you're wondering why mine are so low as of right now, I have hunger, tiredness, drunkenness, and even more. So I got to get that figured out before I can continue playing the game in an appropriate way here. As you can see, there are hundreds of different perks and tons of different abilities that you can unlock and specific bonuses for your character that you can unlock that will make going through this game a lot easier than it feels at the way start of the game. Now, moving on into the story and the side quests, and I'm not going to show any specific footage here because I don't want anybody to be spoiled on either of these, because number one, a lot of the side quests are interlocking with some of the characters that you're going to be meeting later on or even early on within the main story, and opening up different avenues of things you can do in the main story, but also because both the main story and the side quests are so damn good, and I want you to experience these for the first time. But I do want to say how great these actually are. Now, the side quests specifically, some of them are just going to be fun, some of them are going to be a little more meaningful or even be sad at times and bring out a range of emotions, and again, some are just going to be very funny, and some are going to be shorter, some are going to be a lot longer, but in general, all of them are extremely high quality. None of them feel like another side quest you're doing in the game. You're going to be building your reputation. These characters are going to be remembering what you do, or more importantly, what you don't do for them in a timely manner as well at times. I would recommend, if you're playing this game, it's going to take a very long time to do all of the side quests that you can hopefully do, as well as the main story, but definitely take the time to explore these, to learn these characters, to learn the lore of the world and how all of the different cities and the different towns are interconnected with each other and their different reputations with each other and your reputation with them. All of this is so damn important for the main story, but also just in general for having a great time in this game, because you're going to get so immersed and these are so high quality, you need to see as many of these as you possibly can. To couple this with how absolutely incredible the voice acting is, both from the main character Henry as well as your buddy Sir Hans, and all of the other characters both in the main story and the side quests in this game, they are so damn good that this game has to be up for a Game Awards, or at least Henry and Sir Hans have to be up there at the Game Awards for how damn good their performance was in this game. It's genuinely incredible. Now, before I wrap this up, I do quickly want to just talk about some things that I don't think players will like as much, and I've referenced these a little bit throughout the video because this game is not going to be for everybody. This game is borderline a realistic immersive sim, which is a cross between a traditional RPG as well as almost more of a realistic survival simulator at times, with insane consequences and reactivity based on if you do something good or bad in the game. And I think this is really going to frustrate the hell out of people. The crafting, for example, is going to frustrate people that just want to get it done quick and want to get that out of the way. The combat is something a lot of people aren't going to like because it is way slower and way more methodical than a lot of people probably have expected in a lot of these RPGs. On top of this, the consequences and the reactivity of the world can be extremely frustrating at times, and it will take a long time for you to actually get comfortable out in this world. There's going to be moments where you fail quests and you're going to lose out on a portion of the content in this game because of that, or you're going to have to make decisions that you might not necessarily want to make that are going to be detrimental to you as the character that you're going to have to fight through. And while this stuff is actually groundbreaking and it actually makes this game really what it is, which is the most immersive game in my opinion, the most immersive RPG that I have ever played or really ever seen, again, this is not for everybody. Now, I do also want to quickly talk about some things I think the studio can improve just to make this game better, not specifically something that's more about taste like I just mentioned. There are definitely some bugs here that I think they could fix, which I think in general this game is overall extremely polished and performs absolutely incredibly. The optimization is great here. However, there are a couple bugs, again, that I think are just a little bit annoying. I literally have 80 hours of footage, so I'm not going to show all of these, but just take my word for it. You definitely can just get stuck on the smallest rock or the smallest twig when you're out there in the woods, specifically with the rocks. I got stuck between these two small ass rocks and I couldn't get out of it. I was spamming jump over and over and over again, knowing that if I did load my save, I would have probably lost an hour of progress, which is extremely annoying. And this happened pretty consistently throughout my playthrough. Nothing to actually take away overall from the game, but there are times where you have to go up into a mountain of rocks or you have to go through the woods where you're just going to get clipped on things and it's just annoying. Also, when the reactivity doesn't go the way you think it's going to go because of how great the reactivity is everywhere else in the game, it just is a little bit immersion breaking. For example, without spoiling, there was a guy and a girl and the guy wanted two specific items and I already gave the girl one of these items. So he had one of the items and she had one of the items. He wanted both of the items and she wanted the other item that the guy had. So I swapped out the items so the girl had the item that she wanted and the guy still had at least one of these two items to keep him safe, and he would not talk to me. He was extremely pissed off at me because I swapped these items out in the middle of the night without him seeing, and he suspected that I was the person who did this. Now, I do want to say here that I was a little bit upset because this guy was the head of the town and I no longer could do what I wanted to do at that town because of the reputation that that caused me. So I went and I killed the girl. I brought him all of the items that he wanted and he just didn't care. He wouldn't even talk to me, and I assumed because of how reactive this game was that if I had both of these items, tried to talk to him, it would let me say, hey, here's these items, sorry for what I did, here you go, and my reputation would be restored in that area, and it just didn't let me talk to him, so I just loaded a previous save and said, fuck this, I'm not killing the girl. Now, another thing here is the stealth. The stealth is sometimes very finicky, specifically when you're throwing rocks and trying to get people to move out of the way so you can sneak behind them. There are times where I'm throwing a rock right in front of somebody and they have no idea that that rock's hitting them or is going right in front of them, and it's extremely frustrating because there are certain moments in the game where you need to do this to get past certain guards to get to the objective that you need to get to, and when this doesn't happen, you just have to figure out exactly where you need to be for them to actually recognize the rock that you're throwing, which doesn't necessarily make sense. I don't know why it happens because I was, for example, right next to a guard throwing a rock on the ground and he just didn't hear it or he just didn't go to it, and I have absolutely no idea why that happened, and it literally took me an extra like 30 minutes to figure out how the hell to get past this guard. Now, last but not least, one more thing I want to mention is just I feel like you get really strong towards like the middle of the game to the point where there's no really need to pick up any gear or to really do anything the second half of the game. You're kind of just cooking through everybody. You're cooking through quote-unquote boss-like enemies, even the quote-unquote final boss really at the end of the game that is very built up to, and it kind of ruins a lot of that scared feeling or brutal world that you do feel at the start of the game, and you just get really good stuff really fast, especially if you're going around and doing all the side quests and exploring, because these things are very rewarding if you decide to do them. But I guess if you just played the main story, it might be completely different, and this whole situation might feel very different than I feel currently, but that is another one that I just think could be improved. Now, granted, these are very nitpicky things and things that in general did not ruin my experience at all in any way. However, they are things that when they happen could be annoying or immersion breaking at times. Now, for my final score of this game, I'm going to give it a flat 10 out of 10. I genuinely do think, like I said at the start of this video, it is up there as one of the greatest RPGs of all time, and honestly, one of the best games that I have personally ever played. fact that this studio was about 200 people and only had a $40 million budget and created this masterpiece of an experience that I think is genuinely a better RPG experience than any of the giant RPG legendary studios that we know and love that I mentioned at the start of this video is absolutely insane to me. And they need to use this game as an example of what RPGs need to be, of what a real open world, reactive, consequential environment actually needs to be in these games. I think Warhorse deserves to be up there as one of the greatest RPG makers of our time right now, based on what they did with Come Deliverance II. I genuinely do think it is now Warhorse, CD Projekt Red, and Larian as the three best RPG makers, at least right now, and honestly, throw in FromSoft there as well, although those RPGs are very different than these ones. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys think about this game in general if you have played it. If you haven't played it, please let me know why. Is this game just not for you, or you haven't gotten to it yet? Did my review, for example, get you to play the game, or are you now going to stay away from it because this game, like I said, isn't for everybody? I would love to hear your guys' opinions down below in the comments. Please like this video if you like the video, and subscribe for more content like this. We have a vow that I'm going to be playing when the game comes out, not on early release, so that is going to be my next first impression video, as well as full review when I finish that game, and then we're on to Monster Hunter Wilds. So thank you guys so much for supporting this channel. Road to 1,000, we're almost completed with that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.